Hello, everyone. I believe we are live. So, welcome to an evening of talking about all things 10 in 10. And I am joined by none other than Adam Holland,
Hi everyone.
the current world record holder for 10 marathons in 10 days. And the purpose of this evening is basically to have a good old chat about all things 10 marathons in 10 days, 10 half marathons in 10 days, 10 5Ks, 10Ks, anything you fancy running distance wise over a 10-day period. And hopefully, we can answer a few questions and we can perhaps demystify some of the things that people think about 10 in 10s. And if we can help a little bit, if we can answer a few questions, then that's a good thing. That's what we're here for. So we'll give people a few minutes just to log in. This, believe it or not, is the first FaceTime live session that I've ever done, and it's the first one certainly that we've ever done together, therefore.
Definitely.
So I can see that there are a couple of people logging in. Julia Wellings. Hello, Julia. Welcome.
Ooh,
Hello, M&A. Hello, Babs. So if you guys are out there and you're watching, then give us a quick like or a quick comment so that we know you're there. And as I mentioned, the plan, as people are, I can see continuing to join us, the plan is to just have a bit of a chat really about 10 in 10, and hopefully between us we can answer any questions you might have. We've got a 10 in 10 event at Phoenix Running, the chat group that you are in and watching this in, coming up in April, and we've got quite a few people signed up for that. So again, this is very much about, if you're nervous about that, you've got any questions about that, anything we can do to help, then that's what we're here to do this evening. And if you've yet to sign up for a 10 in 10, not just ours, but any 10 in 10 out there, then if we can answer a few questions, perhaps give you a few tips on how you might prepare for such an endeavour, then that is also what we're here to do. And hopefully you might take the plunge and sign up for something. There are quite a few 10 in 10s that now happen in the UK, and maybe actually while we've just got people logging in, a few more. Hi Alison, hi Teresa, hi Caroline. Then perhaps maybe we do a couple of minutes on the history of the 10 in 10, because believe it or not, the 10 in 10, certainly in this country, is quite a young event. It's not really been around for very long. In fact, it would be a teenager.
2008.
2007, 2008, I think, was where it all started. And Sir Christopher Ball
Yeah.
at Braithwaite was the sort of guy with the brainchild. So the 10 in 10 in this country, as far as we're aware, was born out of the Windermere Marathon. And the Windermere Marathon has been around for many years, 40 something.
No idea, loads.
40 something, let's go with that. So 40 something years, and back I think around 2007, 2008, Sir Christopher Ball said, well, if we can run round Lake Windermere once, which just happens to be a marathon, then why can't we run round it 10 times? And from that, the very first 10 in 10 happened up in Braithwaite, I think in 2007. And the reason that sticks in my mind, it being a 7, is because I think there were 7 athletes that did it that very first year. And lots of you out there will certainly know one of those guys, because one of those guys was none other than Steve Edwards, who is a very well-known multi-marathon runner in the sorts of circles that we hang about in,
Yeah.
and has been an inspiration for countless marathon runners and multi-marathon runners over the years. And in that first year, or within those first couple of years, Steve would have laid down what would be the world record benchmark in terms of speed. And I think when did you first run Braithwaite?
2009.
2009, so quite early on. And Braithwaite was the only 10 in 10 in this country for quite a few years, about 6, 7 or 8 years as far as I'm aware. And I think the next 10 in 10 that came along would have been Great Barrow Challenge.
2014.
2014, I reckon. And I remember a conversation actually having done a few of Great Barrow's 4 in 4s, which I think was the sort of predecessor to Glenn setting up the Great Barrow Challenge and the 10 in 10 up in
Suffolk.
And I remember a conversation, probably would have been around 2013, and there were a few of us up there doing a 4 in 4. People like Kate Jaden, I think Joe Yarnell, you'd have probably been up there, and there was a conversation that went something along the lines of, you should do a 10 in 10 up here because it's got the perfect setup. And the very next year, I think Glenn did indeed put on a 10 in 10. I think he might have even have put on a 20 in 10. but I don't think that.
No, yeah, I think the
Folks,
idea was there, but I don't think anyone.
I don't think anyone entered actually. I do seem to remember having a conversation around, maybe if you're doing a 10
It
in
might
10,
have
why
been the
don't you
year
do?
after.
Might have been, yeah. And I think around that sort of time, Steve Rallo at Ultra Running Limited also did his first 10 in 10, wasn't it? So there were a couple of 10 in 10s around 2014, 2015 that you could then enter as events. Braithey up until then had been really the only option. How many times have you done Braithey now?
So I've done that one 3 times.
3 times. So
Yeah.
I did that one in 2013, and then you're going back there this year?
I'm going back this
Going
year.
back there this year. So if you want to watch the Braithey 10 in 10, because normally video cameras and stuff like that and daily blogs and logs, you'll get to see Adam laying down what I'm sure will be some super fast times on Braithey. And then in terms of the history of the 10 in 10, I think it sort of from that point on, from probably around sort of 2015, 2016, I think SVN brought along, so Travis and Rachel brought along 10 challenges in 10 days, which was a fantastic way to open up what I think until that point had been really a marathon only distance. So 10 challenges in 10 days, 2017, 2018. Our event came along in 2019, and people really started to celebrate other distances, so things particularly like 10 half marathons in 10 days, 10 10Ks in 10 days, and that's really the history of the 10 in 10. So there are still not that many options. I think Phil Eccleston actually did a Scorcher, a 10 in 10 Scorcher, I think, which was held further up into the north of the UK. So there are a few options if you fancy finding a 10 in 10 event.
And it's not just the UK, because I've also been
right.
over in Italy, and that's where I hold the current world record, averaging a 2:45. And I know there are, I believe, at least 3 or 4 other locations in the world now that have official 10 in 10s. I know the US do
Yeah,
kind
the
of
US has got a
14s
few.
and
Yes.
other bits.
Yeah, well, actually, the when I did my world record in 2013, that was in USA, so that was in Long Beach, and that was a composite. So that was 2 7 in 7s that were done back to back, and within that there was a 10 in 10 in there.
A record in between that.
In between, yeah, I think days 3 to whatever 12 or something like that. So yes, so hopefully we've got a few people logged in now. Can definitely see a few comments popping up. So hi to Steph, hi Brian. So thanks for joining us, guys. So really, it's a case of probably sort of throwing things out to the floor now. And if anybody has got any questions, feel free to type those in, and then we'll start to do our best to answer them for you if we can.
As we wait, how many official 10 in 10s have you done?
So I've done 6, three 10 in 10s and 3 composite 10 in 10s, and that was all around 2013 that I did mine.
Yeah, when you're doing all those.
Yeah, when I sort
Lots.
of had a sort of a big year basically of running. And how many of you done now? Did you say 10 or 11?
I've done 14 official
14?
10 in 10s.
Okay, so definitely Adam knows a thing or two about 10 in 10s. So for folks that are out there, have we got anybody who's got a burning question that they want to ask? If so, type it in. And while we are waiting to see, I think that we've got, what have we got? We've got 30-something people out there now. So anything that you want to ask, I mean, no question is too small, too silly, or anything like that. We will happily answer. And while we're just sort of waiting for folks to log in, why don't we talk a little bit about how you perhaps prepare for a 10 in 10? Because one of the things certainly that I get asked about quite a lot is how do you train? How do you train for a 10 in 10? And that is, I guess that's a massive question actually, because how do you train for a 10 in 10? How do you prepare for it? So let's have a look while we're, question for Babs, right. Hoping to do 10 halves. What sort of daily distance should I do in training, please? Want to think about that, Adam?
Well, it depends on what your targets and aims are. If you're looking for a time, then I'd say train for the half distance. Like every other day, have a go at doing a half. If you're training just to have a go, then maybe just 10 miles and enjoy the last bit because it's an experience.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I sort of think about when you're thinking about the training part for a 10 in 10 is almost always people tend to focus on the distance. So I'm running 10 half marathons or 10 marathons. So how many miles should I be doing? What sort of frequency of training? I personally think that if, especially if you're still thinking about doing a 10 in 10 and you're perhaps not committed yet, the one thing I've always thought was interesting is that with a 10 in 10, actually, the 10 days, which is the second part of the title, 10 marathons in 10 days, 10 half marathons in 10 days, the 10 days is arguably the most important thing. And there is a way that you can, when you're thinking about your training, almost focus on that first. So one of the first things I would suggest that you do in your running, if you're even thinking about a 10 in 10, is why not pick a 10-day period, any 10-day period will do, as long as it's consecutive days, and go out and run a distance, pretty much any distance will do, for 10 days in a row. Because when you look at most people's training, not a lot of people have actually done that, because most traditional training programs certainly will incorporate rest days and things like that, and rightly so. But if you're preparing for a 10 in 10, if you pick a 10-day period at any point prior to your 10 in 10 event, and then based on your experience and how much running you're doing is when you think about selecting the distance. And you could literally select any distance. So if you are a very experienced multi-marathon runner who's running doubles and triples pretty much every other weekend, then you might pick a bigger distance. You might pick maybe 10 miles or something like
It
that.
doesn't even have to be distance, it could be time. You can go out for an hour or half an hour and half an hour later.
That's a very good point, actually, or time. If you're a less experienced runner, so maybe Babs, if you're training for 10 halves, you could pick a distance of a couple of miles a day and then slot that into your daily programs. So try and go out at the same time every day. So if you're going to go out for a couple of miles a day for 10 days and you generally run in the evening, do it in the evening. What that does, I think, which is really key to 10 in 10, is it will give you a flavour and a bit of experience for what it's like to run some distance at the same sort of time every day. And what happens when you do that is you start to slot in pieces sort of around the running bit, because the real key to a 10 in 10, I think, is routine. It's hitting your groove, getting into a routine, doing the same thing every day, finding what works for you for breakfast, for fueling, what you do straight after the run. So if you just pick a 10-day period and run a distance every day, that for me is certainly some of the best advice I got given, and it hopefully will enable you to find out what it's going to be like when you then go for your main event, your actual 10 in 10, and you're upping your distance and you're doing your half marathons every day.
A lot of people, when they focus on these sort of things, they think about the physical side, but at the end of the day, it's also your mental side, because you are battling against yourself to get that done. So as long as you've got a mental strength and saying, you're going to get this done, get it done, rather than worrying about distance, time, it's just about getting out there and enjoying it and, yeah, doing it.
Cool. Right, what else have we got?
Have we ever raced each other?
Have we ever raced it?
Yes.
Well, technically
Yes.
we have. Yeah, and that would have been at Steve's event,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
that was Steve.
At Ultra Running, so some medals that you can't see behind the camera from up there. So what Paul is really asking is, did we ever race each other, and who won? And it was Adam. And it would still be Adam, and it would always have been Adam. Even when I was at my best, it would have been Adam. So yes, I did take Adam's 10 in 10 world record off him, but a few years later he took it back, and he's not only taken it back, he's absolutely taken it to pieces about 3 or 4 times since then. So in a race, who would win? Top trumps every time.
I've had lots of practice.
Yes. Right, how do you keep hydrated during your 10 in 10? That was a good example.
You haven't got your drink,
yeah, I haven't
you've
got
left
mine.
it.
Mine's over there, I think. So do you want to...
Yeah, again, it's down to routine, making sure you're prepared and prepped, having bottles ready. Like today during my marathon, I had 2 cups with my drinks in them, 2 gels sat next to it, and I knew when I was going to take those. So coming around on the second lap, I was going to have 1 gel. On the third lap, I was going to have 1 cup. And it's routine and getting your body used to it. Because I have done so many marathons, I know for a fact that I can do a marathon without drinking or eating or anything and get it done. But at the end of the day, I know that's not good for me, and for like tomorrow, I know I'm racing again. So I need that fluid, I need the food, just so that my body is recovering while I'm running, ready for the next day. I know you might have a different way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
Each to their own.
it's an absolute minefield, isn't it? The whole
Yeah.
sort of hydration thing. I think I've always sort of prescribed to the drink to thirst type approach. So rather than having a very prescriptive approach where you say, right, I ought to be drinking X liters per per minute or per hour or whatever, and having something a particular plan laid out, I tend to sort of drink to thirst. But there is also a thought pattern there that actually, if you're really thirsty, it's possibly too late for hydration. But I'm not convinced that's the case. So I think it's a quite a tricky one to answer. But I think that definitely lots and lots of water. One thing I always did, and I did it very much in my 10 in 10s, was always had a decent protein shake available straight after finishing. Now they're very good at this at Braithwaite because they will have this for you at the finish line, and it's a good habit to get into.
Cheese
So
and onion sandwiches I have.
yeah, cheese and onion sandwiches, and also tomato soup, actually, food for the gods. But in terms of hydration, yeah, I think drink little and often, and a protein shake certainly always worked for me as soon as you finish running, and then you're replenishing that sort of lost protein that you need then to help recover for the next day.
Scroll up,
Okay,
there's a
we'll
few
scroll
questions.
up a little bit. So hydration. So Alison, would you suggest working up to a 10 in 10, starting with 3, 4, etc., or just sign up for a 10 in 10 and go for it? Good question.
Both. Both. Again, it's down to the person and what your aims and goals are. You can just sign up and do it. I know several people that have done it. They they're capable of doing it because they know they can run a marathon. But if you're looking for times, then or you want to feel what it's like, then get out there. Do these 3 or 4 days. I did a training plan for one of our 10 and 10 runners who's sadly not doing it now because of COVID related problems, and got him to sign up for a 4 and a 5 so that he could physically and mentally know what it was like, so that when he got to it on the day, he wouldn't be stressed. He would be more relaxed going into it, and he could just get the job done.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's a bit of a sort of yes and no question. I think definitely I would recommend to people doubles and triples
Yeah,
for sure, because to go straight into a 10 in 10 without having done, say, back to back distances in your chosen discipline is probably not a good idea. But then on the sort of on the flip side of that, on the more no side of that, I don't think that many people who go into a 10 in 10 have probably done more than maybe a triple, or in some
it's
cases a
usually
quad.
a triple, or
Yeah,
they because you've got Foxy's 5 and 5. Some of them do those
yeah,
now.
yeah. There's a few quads about, but they're sort of never really was historically. So I think anything certainly double and triple is good, and then it's a case of just kind of diving into it. What you'll probably find, or certainly what I found with the 10 in 10, for me, always around day 3 or 4 was the kind of the sort of pretty hump day, the miserable day, not the middle of the 10 days, but a bit earlier on. And I always used to think that was it's sort of your body adjusting, body and mind actually adjusting into it. So you've probably done doubles before, you've probably done triples before, and
Yeah.
you're sort of doing that, and then you get to day 3 or day 4, and your body thinks, well, that's over. That's what he does. He's been a bit stupid again. He's run a couple of marathons or maybe 3, so now it's time to flick into recovery mode, and we'll help him get repaired. And then of course you come out on day 4 and then day 5, and you keep doing the same thing. And I always found it took a day or so, maybe a couple of days, for my body to sort of catch up and realise that this was probably going to keep happening. So let's all pitch in, and that's when you start to find your rhythm and your routine. 10 in 10 is absolutely about routine. It really is. It's as much about all of the stuff that you do around the running as it is about the running as well.
Well, when I did my second 10 in 10 at Barrow, the first year I did it, I broke Steve Everett's record, and I didn't. That was never my plan. It was just doing it and getting those marathons because I was trying to get to 100. So the next year when I went back, my aim was to try and beat what I had done. And the first 2 days I went under 3 hours. So on the third day I was like, I'm going too fast. I'm going to burn up. I ended up running slower. I think I did like a 3:13, and afterwards I had to kick myself because I was like, I'm still feeling really good, and then went out the next day and went faster again, And because of that, like 13 minutes, I missed out on that sub 3 average, which is my target for this year. Because no one has, well, I think I might be the only 10 in 10 runner that's done a sub 3 at Barrow. But I've done 5, I did 5 of the 10, and this time I want to do all 10 sub 3 hours.
Yeah, that'd be a cracking benchmark. And I think that's actually quite an interesting point, because one of the things certainly I get asked from time to time is, should I save myself for the next day? So should I? And again, there's no right or wrong answer to this, but it's interesting hearing you talk about Adam, because I totally agree with you.
It's
I
partly
think
the way I run my race as well. I save myself
Yeah.
in the race.
Yeah, I sort of totally understand. So this is not necessarily, by the way that you should absolutely do it, because you have to kind of find what works for you. But I totally agree with you, Adam. I think for me, I very much treated every day as a single day.
Individual.
Just go for it on that day. And there's a saying at Braithwaite, certainly, what a difference a day makes, and it really does. And I think you can just run or race or complete or compete, whatever your target is, whether it's to get round, get to the finish line, or get there as fast as you can. I think not necessarily my advice would be, but certainly what worked for me was to treat every day as it came, do that day as a day's race, and then the next day would kind of take care of itself. I know there are a lot of people out there that do prescribe to the take it a bit easy on the first couple of days, and I think if you think that's going to work for you, then try it out, because you've got a little bit of time during the 10 in 10, so you can there's a bit of trial and error, and it is very much about sort of finding what works for you. So there's no sort of right or wrong answers with this kind of stuff, but clearly we can give you our
A little bit of
opinions.
help.
Yeah, hopefully. What else have we got?
Am
Here
I
we go.
planning to beat my 10 in 10 Guinness World Record? I'm not planning. I'm not planning. I would love to attempt the Guinness World Record again, and it would be amazing if there was a looped course here in the UK. Obviously, at the moment, my world record is over. I did it over in Italy on a hilly course. It wasn't a flat course, and it was pretty warm too. But it was a fantastic course, which I fairly enjoyed. And because I was enjoying myself, I also did really well. But over here, some of the marathons are a little bit more difficult. If I had come to do Rick's 10 in 10, I really struggle to do the turnaround points, because it's to slow down and then
Yeah.
get going again. And I was originally supposed to be coming here to do the 20 in 20, but COVID cut that short, and it didn't happen in the end. And I had applied to Guinness as an official record. So the record is there, it's official, but no one's claimed for it. And I know there are people that have done the 20 in 20, but they haven't claimed for that record yet. So if you know someone,
Neil Williams.
yeah, if you know someone who's done it, get them to do the paperwork. The record is there to be taken.
Yeah, actually, we can help you with that, Neil Williams, because I think Neil's done. I mean, there'll be other people as well, but
Yeah.
and I think it's a real shame. We were all sort of geared up in 2020, Adam, to come along and have a go at the 20 in 20 and probably nail a 10 in 10 in there. But I think
Yeah.
so the current record is 2:45, isn't it? It's
2:45 average.
I mean, that's average. That's insane over 10 days.
But
So
during that 10 in 10, I also set the 3 in 3 record, which I think
Well,
was an
that's right.
average of
2:40.
2:41.
Yeah, I was going to say 2:41, 2:42. Yes, I mean that's just that is some seriously quick running.
But I haven't finished the official paperwork for that, so I haven't got the Guinness record until I finish the paperwork.
Okay. Yeah, the paperwork can take time. I think getting mine vetted was like 14 months or something like that, from 2013 to 2014. And it's sort of like you sort of done it, and then
Yeah.
you've got to wait all this time for it to get claimed. It's sort of
It wasn't more the fact of getting it claimed for me, because a lot of you might know I am dyslexic, so writing is very difficult for myself, and I have to rely on other people to help me. And with the 10 in 10, a bloke in the US, I won't name and shame, because it's not really, I don't know if it's his fault or the media's fault, but they were claiming that he broke the 10 in 10 world record when it was an hour slower than my record.
Yeah, I remember.
So then my wife stepped in to really help me get it going and get all the paperwork officially done and put that record there so that I had the official Guinness record. But yeah, that was I think 2 years after I'd actually done the record, I got the official certificate.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it? It sort of takes the wind out of the sails a little bit. I think one thing that's really nice actually though is that certainly with Steve Edwards laying down those
Yeah,
initial 10 in 10 world the initial 10 in 10 world record, and then between us we've kept the record on British soil from 2007 until now, which is certainly something I'm quite proud of. Even though yours was actually set in Italy and mine was set in America, so we've gone abroad and done it on other people's turf, but definitely kept the record over here. And let's not forget Sally as well.
yeah.
So Sally, who is the female world record holder, who did that, she did that break as well.
Yeah,
Was it
she did it up there.
2011 or 2012?
Might be 12. I know it was after my second attempt.
Yeah. So again, but female world record kept on this soil as well. So
But when I at 2009, 2008, when Steve was doing his second 10 in 10, on the last day was the day I did my first go at the Windermere Marathon,
okay.
and I actually met him there. I told him that I was going for his youngest to do a 100 marathon world record,
Okay.
and his comment to me was that record is there to be broken.
Absolutely.
And then the next year I went and broke his 10 in 10 record.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the nice thing actually about the sort of multi-marathon running scene, certainly over here, is a lot of us know each other.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of respect when records are broken, and certainly when you decimated the effort that I put into it. I was the first to hopefully shake your hand and say well done, because that is absolutely the case. Records are there to be broken. So yeah, if anyone fancies going sub 2:45, then you can break Adam's record.
Let me know if you are, because I'd be up for going against you. It was pretty much running on my own when I did the record, but because it was a 2-lap course, I had targets. I had people to kind of see where I could pass them, so
Yeah.
it gave me that little bit of a boost. But it is harder when you're going for a time to be running on your own, and it's easier when you've got technically someone else there pacing you, where you are actually pacing each other.
Right, okay. Right, so what else we got? Will Picton, I need to start taking running more seriously, don't we all? I'm a turn up and run person. Regular runs have reduced from daily to once a week. Would joining a running club or getting a coach help get my mojo back? What do you think?
Definitely, yeah. I'm part of a club, but sadly I moved away. But when I was with the club, I'd go on a Thursday and a Tuesday, and it's so nice to have that company, and it does help. And also, you find out what other people are doing, what other races, and you can car share with them if you know that they're doing local ones, and it all joins together, adds the whole running scene then builds from a local club sort of side of things, and you can do team events as well.
Yeah, I think whatever works for you. Definitely worth trying a few different things out. What have we got? Chasing world records. Hi Nick.
Oh, hey, Nick.
It's 10 in 10 a thing. You must have done quite a few yourself. What about 20 in 10? Well, we did that in the summer, although certainly neither of us
I've not done
run that.
Though I have done 24 marathons in 17 days.
Oh, that's pretty good going. So
Slightly different.
almost. So
Yeah.
there's only one man actually I know of who's done a 20 in 10, and that's Mr. John Q, who many of you will know, and he did our 20 in 10 back in August last year, and yeah, he did. He
Yeah.
did.
So someone's just actually mentioned about Kat. That's what I was just saying. The 24 and 17. It
Ah.
was Kat's idea in the first place, and it was a load of. I think it was like a double, 14 and 7, a triple, and a single, double, something like that. It was her idea. She was going to go do it, and I said I'll come along and do it as well. She really.
Do you remember that? Yeah, I remember.
She
I do
really
remember
struggled with the double day marathons, especially in the evening ones. So she ended up doing 4 less. She ended up doing 20 in 17 days, but still
Okay.
an absolutely amazing achievement because it's crazy on its own.
Absolutely, and I think if I'm right, Kate's out there at the moment doing 100 marathons in 100
Yeah,
days.
and I think it's day 41 or day 42 today.
Yeah, so
I'm just gonna have a look.
well done, Kate. I think doing the Centurion Slam, something like that. But I've definitely seen some of Kate's posts out there. So doing a marathon a day for 100 days is quite a feat. Okay.
Gareth's doing all sorts of bits and pieces like that as well.
Well, yeah, because,
This is
Gareth was
different.
with us today, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So running was we had an event for anyone who wasn't there, who doesn't know. We had a Phoenix event down on the towpath today. We've got another one tomorrow.
New course record!
New
Woo!
course record 2:38. I mean, why not? Beating his own course record of 2:45, I think.
Yeah.
Previous course record of 2:45. So we're running the other direction tomorrow, and we're doing the short, what we call the short lap out to Hampton Court. There isn't sort of really a course record on that one as such. There's a 2:42 on the long route to Hampton Court. So the short lap, I don't think anybody's done a sub 3 on that. So you can lay down.
I've never been that direction, so I've got no idea what to expect. And all I get told is it can be muddy if it's been raining.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been raining, he
No,
says, because I
tomorrow.
think it is going to be raining tomorrow. Although I don't think it's raining until late morning. So, anyway, let's have a quick look.
While he's having a look, I'll give you a run through of some of the 10 in 10s that are available out there. You got Windermere, but that is a charity based one, so you have to actually apply to get it and then say how you're going to help fundraise for the charity, and it is an amazing charity. Barrow've got a 10 in 10. Rick's got a 10 in 10. There's the one I do out in Italy by the 100 Club, the Italy, the Italy Super Club Italian. I know there's another 10 in 10 just down here by
Yeah,
is it
there's-
Zigzag or
No,
what one?
Saturn Running have got a
Saturn,
10
that's the
in
one.
10. I
There's another one over here.
think.
SVN as well.
Yes, of course, Travis and Rachel, they've got two out. They do at least
Yeah,
two a
one
year,
in,
I think.
one in
Two.
December time, I think, and one kind of mid-year,
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, they do is it a summer
Yeah,
summer seaside series?
Yeah, I've
and
done
then a
the
winter
December one.
seaside series.
and I'm just there's one in over in Ireland, or was. I don't know if they've done it the last couple of years.
No, so as far as I know, the Irish one. So there was actually only one. So I ran that one in 2000, in summer 2013. It was the inaugural 10 in 10 over in a place called 6 Mile Bridge in Southern Ireland. And the plan, I think, was to do more, and they just never did. So that was the only year that happened, I think, over in Ireland.
Yeah, there's I wish I could remember his name. There's a chap in another country. He does a lot of running over here. He hasn't been over obviously recently because of the way things are, but I believe he set a 10 and 10 up in his country, and they did it last year. And by the sounds of it, it was very successful. And if I can afford to do it, I would like to go and visit him in his own country and do his 10 and 10.
Yeah.
And then that's if I can get time off work. I'd also like to do GBC again this year, but I've done every GBC 10 in 10 going since 2014, apart from the one that didn't happen because
Yeah.
of COVID.
Yeah.
Too
So
late.
what have we got? Are there different age categories for 10 in 10 record, or just the one? Speaking as an old runner, it would definitely not break any records. Never say never, Nigel.
No.
Age categories.
So it depends. Windermere have their own age category records, so yes, there are, but as in a general whole, like Guinness World Records, there isn't. I think there might be the oldest 10 in 10 runner. I don't know off the top of
I
my
don't
head.
think Guinness have any age-based categories for any
I thought there was an
records,
oldest.
do they? Yeah, they might have sort of like an oldest person to do something, but I'm not sure they ever take any records and break them into categories. Could be wrong, but I think the answer, Nigel, is no.
No.
For categories, or we think the answer is no. So, but you know, there's always time. Steve Jones, two legends that both ran past my house in Worcester. That would be on one of the ultra running. So Steve Rallo ultra running.
I've run past Steve's house quite a few times.
Yeah, yeah. So 10 in 10 then. What's your favourite 10 in 10, Adam?
I'm kind of. They're all different. They're all unique.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
So I like the Barrow because when it started, it was just one course or two courses, and over the years they've listened to people, they've evolved, and last year, the 10 in 10 was 10 different courses, which was
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
pretty cool. Yeah, that is.
Some
cool.
of them, it's not a flat place around there. and they have changed it so they've got, say, one of their courses is out and back 4 times, but that's to help them and to help the runners, so it's more safe and sorry, it's safer for the runners, and also you can get back to your drink stations, and they do a fantastic job with the aid stations out in the course anyway. Italy was one course up out and back, which was really nice. We had lovely weather, though. I think the last time I went, there was one day it was torrential rain. It was the day I actually set the course record, which I think was 2:35 possibly.
Wow.
The SVN again, they were quite tough because they were quite on the coastal side and they were quite windy.
I imagine, yeah.
And it was in December as well. But they do have there were some really nice courses, and I quite like one of the ones that went. It was, I think it started on the footpath down the bottom, then went out onto kind of like a moorland piece and came back. One of them I didn't like. It was quite a circular enclosed, and you went forward, and then you took a deep dive down to the coastal, and then looped back, and then back up this steep hill. That was probably one I didn't like. They've all got their own unique background story, their own, and it's not just the course, it can be the people you meet or the weather. It all adds to the whole effect.
Yeah, they are all very different. Yeah, definitely. What have we got? So, Will, bit of a statement, I guess. When Will was last looking, there was fastest marathon carrying a bike, which is still unclaimed, and half marathon dressed as cricket player. So, we know what you need to start focusing on your training for, Will.
That's
So
really weird he's pointed that out, because I believe someone is actually going to attempt the fastest carrying a marathon bike, and I've seen it published on Marathon Kids UK today.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's just really weird that you said that one, and I know I've seen that today on Marathon Kids UK.
Somebody might beat you to it, but...
Yeah.
So, Fee, any tips for when the going gets tough and you can't go shopping? Well, so if we just sort of ignore the shopping bit, or pretend to ignore the shopping bit, that is actually a really interesting question, because going will get tough, I think. It's not a case of, you know, will it get tough? Will I have a bad spin? At some point during a 10 in 10, you're probably going to struggle. Certainly, I wouldn't describe any of my 10 in 10s as being straightforward. And there were points during all of them where I struggled, points during all of them where I probably wanted to give up, and points during all of them when the going gets tough. I think on this particular topic, I think the way to think about this is to think about the points in time when you don't quit, or when you don't give up on a 10 in 10. And those points for me were, you don't give up on a 10 in 10 first thing in the morning when you're heading for the start line. You need to get to the start line, and you need to cross that start line. So you don't give up on a 10 in 10 in the first couple of miles of the race each day, because
That's the hardest bit, is to get going.
that's the bit to get started. 90% of these things, and I hear people say this a lot, 90% of these things really is getting to the start line. So if you do nothing else during a 10 in 10 and you are really, really struggling, get yourself to the start line. The other point in the day, and a day being a 24-hour period, that you don't give up on a 10 in 10 is late in the evening, or when you've just got into bed and you're lying there and everything is aching and your mind is playing all the tricks it can, a little bit like when you hit the wall in the marathon, and your mind and your body is playing all the tricks it can on you to get you to stop. So when you're lying there in bed and your muscles are twitching and maybe you can't sleep, that's not the time to decide that you're not going to the start line the next day. So whatever you do, even if you're feeling terrible, get yourself to the start line. Because at the start line, there is support, there is help. It's going to take a couple of miles to get your legs warmed up, to get your brain in gear, to get your body in gear. The only time really, in my opinion, that you should think about having think about potentially quitting for a good reason is, obviously, if you are injured, if you've got an actual injury, then that is clearly something that you need to consider. And also, if you're halfway through, or you're in the middle of the event for that day, and you just really, really, really are struggling, and you seek some support from your fellow runners, come and talk to the race director. If it's me, you will always come and talk to me, and I can perhaps help you, ask you a few questions, find out what's going on. Sometimes you find in a 10 in 10 that what you think is the problem is not the problem, and it's got nothing to do with the problem. You might be struggling in one way because something else that you're doing earlier on in the day, or you're not getting a good night's sleep, or you're not fueling straight after the run, or you're not doing something right, is actually causing you a knock-on issue. So talking about challenges and talking about when you're struggling during a 10 in 10 is really important. And the good thing about the 10 in 10s in this country especially is generally the people that are there are very similar like-minded people, and you will always find people that have done previous 10 in 10s at those, and they're the best source of information. And that's part of the reason we're doing this, really, because we, nobody knows everything about a 10 in 10. We do not know everything about a 10 in 10. We can only share our own experiences.
I have my body, you have your body. I've
Absolutely. I kind of wish I had it sometimes, especially these days. But yeah, so yes, it's actually a really good question, Fee. I'm glad you asked it, because it will get tough, and you just ask the people around you and sort of seek help, and we will do everything we possibly can to stop you pulling out unless it's a genuine reason, and to help you get to the start line every day. So that's the key.
Sometimes you just need to go for a walk during the run for 10 minutes, and I can give you a really good example where I could have stopped during my joggle, Land's End to John O'Groats. If you don't know what joggle is, I did it in 17 days, and I think it was probably day 14 or 15 when I was getting into Somerset. I finished and I got cold, and my wife surprised me, and it was great. They were there, and afterwards I eventually got changed and so forth. But when I tried to walk to the restaurant afterwards, I found it so difficult to walk. I thought I wasn't going to be able to get up in the morning and start the next day, and I was almost tearing because I couldn't walk very far, very fast, and I was hurting. I eventually got there, ate my food, and tried to walk back. I slept, got up in the morning. As soon as I got up in the morning, I could walk better, but I got to that start line and started wiggling my hips to run. And as soon as I got moving, I was gone again. And
Yeah.
I was so glad that I was able to get to that start line and go again, because my main goal was to finish John O'Groats to Land's End, and it was such an amazing achievement just to get to that point. If I'd pulled out the night before without even thinking about just sleeping, I would have regretted that moment for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's the thing, actually, because then you look back on it and then you regret it. And I think I've seen it so many times where it's all about getting to the start line. And I did MDS in 2013, and in the evenings in that camp, it was like a war zone. It was crazy. Your feet were in pieces, and it would take you 10 or 20 minutes to walk a few steps down to the medical tent or down to the mess tent, and you think to yourself, I've got to run a marathon tomorrow. Now, you really had no choice but to get to the start line because we were in the middle of the desert. However, same principle applies. If you're home and you're comfortable and you've got a nice hot cup of coffee and you've got your feet up in the evening, that is not the time to pull out of a 10 in 10, because it's going to be very tempting not to get to the start line. So get yourself up, if it's a cold morning, doesn't matter, and get down to the start line. And I saw that in the desert. People who couldn't walk the night before would strap their feet up, put their trainers on, and all of a sudden, a couple of miles in, and you're running 20, 24, 26, 50 miles, and you will find a way to keep going as long as you get down to that start line. If you don't get to the start line, you can't get to the finish line, basically. It's as simple as that. From Steph, when is 2023 going live for us? Simple answer there, Steph. As soon as we have done 2022. So we've got 2022 planned in April, and pretty much within a day or two after we've completed that, we'll set the following year live. And it looks like you've got a good plan there. So
That's definitely
you might be
being
your
organised.
year. You've got double. You've got Quadzilla. So yeah, get yourself up to see Foxy in February, which is that's an excellent quad. And then, yeah, absolutely, come and see us in April. It sounds like a plan. And anything we can do to help you on the way there, then just shout. Michelle, do you ever get blisters? This is a good question. Do you ever get blisters, particularly when it's wet?
So generally, no, I don't get blisters. But when it is wet, on the very odd occasion, I might get a small blister of some sort. I'm really lucky. I don't suffer with blisters that bad. But I think sometimes it depends on what socks I'm wearing, because a lot of the time I wear cheap socks that aren't running supported socks, just because that's what I've got. And I guess that's all I can kind of give you because yeah, I'm quite one of those lucky runners, really.
Yeah, I was the same. I never suffered with blisters, even when I was running a lot. I mean, when I ran Relentless, when you presumably no blisters during jog or anything like that.
I had one small one. I think it was
Okay,
between my big toe and the one next to it.
yeah, and I was the same. So 10 in tens, Relentless, which was 29 days of running through all the counties, not a single blister. But I do think socks are. I think they are the key. I think they're the you find a good pair of running socks, not
Also,
one
don't
pair, but
mess around with your blister. If you've got one, leave it.
yeah, the only time I saw huge numbers of blisters was during MDS, and I did get a couple of blisters during MDS, although they were probably more just sore where my feet just rubbed to be sort of red raw. And there's a few different ways to deal with blisters. So when I did have them in the desert, one of the things you can do is something called stitching them, and you run a needle and thread through the blister and you leave the thread in overnight. And it
Yeah.
sounds completely gross. You
No,
leave the thread in overnight because what happens is the blister reseals. It's an alternative to popping blisters or cutting them off. The all of the French medics at the MDS, if you went into the medical tent with a blister, which hundreds of people did, their solution was to completely cut that blister off and
ooh,
cover you in iodine and then strap you up. And that was not
that
something
sounds
I
so.
wanted done
No.
at all. And so what I did with the blisters I had there was I did this stitching technique, which is you put a needle right through both sides of the blister and you pull the thread through and then you leave the thread in like a little piece of floss.
If you've got liquid in there, it helps the liquid.
That's right. So what happens is
Recipe.
the blister will sort of reseal, particularly overnight, but that thread leaves a little gap, and the fluid can drain down the thread. And then what you do in the morning is you pull the thread out, and you'll have a completely flat blister, and then you can strap that up, or you can just put a pair of socks on, and off you go again. And the theory is, and it certainly worked for me, is that you don't take the blister off because the blister's there for a reason, which is to protect a damaged area. So if that we are not medically qualified, by the way, so don't go stitching your big toe to your little toe and then come and blame us because it's not our fault.
We're going to see some photos afterwards of people stitching their toes
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, we don't want that. That would be bad. Mike, here's a good one. So in 2019, when it got tough, it was the other tits, the other 10 in 10s, that support that kept me going. So absolutely, the people around you are a real source of support because the good thing I noticed, well, in particular about running actually, but particularly about 10 in 10 is nobody wants anybody not to get to the finish line. Nobody wants anybody to fail. And people who are struggling themselves will do everything they possibly can to support you if you're struggling as well. So it really does become a family. So yeah, that's a good comment.
Yeah, like today I finished. After I finished, I was waiting around and stuff. But I went and walked a lap with Brian Mills just to give him a bit of company. And we chatted the whole way up and back. And he just had the one left to do then. And it was nicer for him to chat. And he didn't have to listen to the silence and in his own head. He was able to talk to me and I was talk to him. And it just gave him that one lap and we just got it done.
Graham, I believe when Steve Edwards was looking for sponsorship, one asked to look at his feet. Have you or Adam had any trouble at any point changing to different brand of shoe, sock with blisters, etc.? Have you been very fortunate in that department? I have a terrible problem a few years back, but all good now, hopefully. Well, I'm glad that your problem is sorted, Graham. What do you think, Adam? What's your experience there?
So I've got no sponsorship or anything to do with shoes or socks, and I'm really lucky. I tend to use any shoes available. I'm some races I get vouchers, so I use those as an example to get my shoes. And actually, at the National Running Show, Duathlon, I think they're called, they had like a running on a treadmill competition, run the fastest, and I was the fastest. And I won a £100 voucher, and I've just bought 2 pairs of shoes that I've never even heard of. I think they're called Kit Run. And
Okay.
I wore one of those pairs today, and there's no comfort in them at all. I felt my lower back a little bit sore, but I've never really had any problem with any shoes. But the other pair of shoes I bought were from this voucher, were £25, and the description says on it that it's 10k per week maximum. So I'm not really sure they're really
Okay.
running shoes.
I'm not sure you'll literally get very far with those.
Yeah.
See, I'm a bit different there. I always used Asics, other
That was
brands.
my go-to shoe when I did
Yeah.
the 10 and 10s to start off with.
But I couldn't even change between different types of ASIC shoes, so I always used Gel Nimbus, which is a really supportive shoe, which is not great actually. It's quite a heavy shoe, but it's very well cushioned.
mine
And
were
my
the GTs.
okay, so they're
Yeah,
they're a bit
similar.
lighter, and my physio hated them as a shoe. He would have loved to have got me out of them, especially when I was running a lot of mileage. And I just never could, and I tried a few times. I tried changing to Asics Cumulus, which was a much more comfortable shoe, much softer. And what that did was, because it wasn't as supportive, it moved my big toe very slightly more towards the centre of the shoe, and it caused me problems on the outside of my knee. So the biomechanics sort of spread up the outside of the tibia and stuff like that. And then I also tried another major brand. I won't mention who they are because they're a great shoe, but I actually tried changing brands, and I ran, what did I do? I got a brand new pair of shoes and went straight out and ran a marathon down at I think it was one of Ian Berry's. What was it? Oh, Kent Roadrunner. I did
Oh,
a
yeah.
Kent Roadrunner down on the tarmac track, in a brand new pair of a different brand of shoes, and it was just awful. And again, when we had a look at that and why that might be causing me a problem, the sort of the foot plate, I suppose, in the shoe was just a slightly different shape for me. So in some ways I was lucky. I found the shoe that I stuck to very early on, and I just stuck to, loads and loads and loads of exactly the same pair. But I would have liked to have moved out of it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
anything neutral I try and get, and especially now that I'm running faster, I try and get lightweight. And a lot of the trail stuff I do, I wear trail shoes if I've got them, and I always find that trail shoes are really heavy, especially when they get
Yeah.
wet.
Of course, a couple of good comments here actually. So there is always the appeal to give up, but if you carry on, your body will actually surprise you with what you are physically and mentally able to accomplish. Absolutely.
Well, you should know
You'll
that.
adapt, yeah, and Nick knows that. Was it 280? He'll type it in, I'm sure, and correct me in a minute. But well into the 280 marathons in a calendar year, in a rolling year, which is just that's an insane number of marathons. So if anybody knows about your body adapting, it's Nick, and it absolutely does. And even during an event, in fact, especially during a 10 in 10 event, you will get with the routine. You'll sort of get, your body will get with the picture and start helping you out. There's a book called Fixing Your Feet. So Nick has said Fixing Your Feet is a good online source and a book you can buy for recommendations on dealing with blisters. Yeah, it is. It's a good. There's some interesting pictures in there if I remember rightly. I haven't read it for a while, but yeah, Fixing Your Feet is probably about the best book out there, especially if you're doing things like 10 in 10, and if you do struggle with your feet a lot, if it's a particularly wet or something like that. But yes, if you do struggle with your feet, Fixing Your Feet is a really good source. I wear Kip Run, so this is from Mark
Yes.
Wootton. Hi Mark, saw you last weekend I think. So I wear Kip Run, they're from Decathlon. I think they're great, but doesn't mean they're for everyone yet.
No.
Again, I think with the whole footwear thing and a lot of things related to running, if you find something that works for you, my golden rule is stick with it. You don't necessarily need to fix something if it's not broken.
No, but it is nice sometimes to try something different.
Yeah, true.
Same with nutrition, and you got gels out. All these different new gels coming out. Kendall Mint Cake, I believe, have now got a gel as well.
Have they?
Yeah, it's like the one I have was like a minty gel.
Okay.
And I know there's a honey gel now.
What
that you can
do you use a particular gel? Do you sort of stick with a particular
get.
brand?
I'm gonna have. I'm just gonna go with it. My
Yeah,
I
have a
can't
look.
remember the name of it.
Gels is it's an interesting topic actually, because clearly it's related to fueling, which is really important for all running, but especially during a 10 in 10. In my early days of running, I always went with SIS gels, and they generally are pretty good because they've got quite a high water content in them. So even though there's energy in there and the sugar in there, etc., there's a good amount of water in each of those gels. Now the downside is that the packages they come in are quite big, and I switched probably during the height of my own running. I switched to Goo, and they're a much thicker gel, quite small sort of packages, and I did that mainly because they were lighter and smaller to carry, and it took me a while. It really did take me a while to adjust to them. I didn't sort of do very well on them to start with, but then these days I sort of swear by them. So again, I think it's about finding what works
Yeah,
for you.
well,
What have you
these
got
are the
there?
ones I've been using. They are thicker, and these are one of the best packagings I've ever come across because when you rip the tab off, it sticks to the thing. It doesn't fall off. That's what this extra piece
Oh,
is.
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really
I've
clever.
never seen that before.
No, I
That is
hadn't
really
until
clever.
I've started using these this year.
Precision fuel. There we go. Now, how about that? So you basically tear across there, and you don't throw the wrapper away.
No, it all sticks together. And then I've got
That
these
is
as
really
well,
cool.
which I've been eating. And basically, the best way I can explain what these are they're similar to Turkish delight. So they're soft, gooey. Taking a whole one at a time can be quite a mouthful. So I take a half nibble and I put it in my back pocket. And I've got on with the gels and these really well over the last couple of weeks.
I mean, I'm pretty sure this one's got 120 calories in it, and I'm pretty sure that they're all about the same. Again, I think some people struggle on gels and tend to get stomach issues when they use gels.
I like the comment that's just come up because I know quite a few people that do that.
Yeah, I use baby food because it's gentle on my stomach. Yeah, yeah. Again, find what works for you. Personally, I think the difference between the gels tends to be the water content. So if you're starting to use gels for the first time or you're changing gels, have a gel and then take a few sips of water. That
Yeah,
would
get
generally
it down,
probably
yeah.
settle your stomach, something like that.
It's all about practice.
Yeah. Graham, normal ones. That's the shoes discounted. So found it hard finding a substitute. I mean, that's the thing about shoes, isn't it? You find a pair that really works for you. You even find a colour you like, and then what do? Every
change
few
it.
months they change it so that you have to buy new ones.
The GT series every year
Yeah.
changed, and they changed the way the shoe was made as well.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's the same shoe anymore.
I seem to remember back. It must have been the A6 Gel Nimbus. There was one in particular, somewhere around the 8s or the 9s. So this is years ago now, and it was just a great shoe for me. It just really worked for me, and I remember going out and buying about 5 pairs. And
I
then
wish they'd
they
keep
wear
the
out.
name. They use the names year in year out, but they changed the shoe, and I wish they'd put like a year next to it so it's different and
Yeah,
it's easier to find. Especially
Yeah.
because a lot of people are looking for that shoe, but it's not that shoe because it's a different year.
trouble is
different-
you wouldn't spend as much money on new shoes then, though, would
there is
you?
that.
Yeah. So Lindsay, yes, the baby food. Talking about baby related things, and we've both got young
We
daughters
have.
or young children. One of the other things that get asked from time to time is about chafing during multi-day
I
events
was
and things
wondering
like
where you
that.
were going with babies. No,
Well,
not chafing.
I will, yeah, chafing, babies chafing. There is a
Yeah.
point to this, and I was going to say actually nappy rash cream. So related to babies and something that is
Yeah.
it metonium?
Don't
It's
know the
one.
name.
Bepanthen. So Bepanthen is the one that I used to use. So if anybody out there is suffering from chafing during multi-day events, then actually back to basics with some of the baby stuff. But yeah, nappy rash cream is really good for that. I never really suffered much myself, fortunately, but whenever I did, then nappy rash cream was the way to go. Bepanthen. There you
I
go.
don't even recognise the name.
How often did you change the nappies though?
I changed the nappies. I just don't look at the name on the pot.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I think it's
It's a white pot.
Metonium.
It's all
Yeah,
I
the
know.
Bepanthen is in a white, and the Metonium or Meconium, I think, comes in a. Or there's one that comes in a bright yellow
I'm
tube. Which is,
dyslexic. I
that's,
can't read.
that's the good stuff. The good stuff is the yellow stuff. Lindsay, I had insoles made and can now put new shoes on and slip my insoles in, and they're good to go.
I
That's
can't get
that's
on
good.
with insoles just because I don't know. It's about taking the old insoles out and putting in the shoe. Obviously, they're made for you, but I've just never got on with insoles.
Yeah, I've never really used them, to be honest.
I have tried it, and it just doesn't
Yeah.
feel right. To
I mean,
me.
you can obviously go to running stores and have all sorts of gait analysis and running analysis done. They'll put you on a treadmill in there and video your
And they can tell
running
you
style.
you can run.
And they will, yeah. Again, I've never sort of done that, so I don't have any positive or negative views on that, I guess. But yeah, Lindsay, if you found something that works for you, that's brilliant. That's what it's all about, and then you can slip that straight into new ones. Nigel, I carry 2 gels as an emergency, but my main fuel is Marmite and cheese sandwiches.
Oh, I would love a Marmite and cheese sandwich
I
right now.
prefer real food. Well, I think we're going to go and have pizza in a minute, actually.
Oh, well,
but anyway,
pizza's good.
or we could have a Marmite sandwich on the way. Ham and cheese was the thing for me. So on long runs and on ultras and on multi-day stuff. So when we did the Relentless series through every county, I pretty much lived on ham and cheese sandwich every day, and all the processed stuff was what worked for me. So, thin sliced white bread, thin sliced ham, slices of cheese, and I could run in through a checkpoint, grab some of that, and pretty much just carry on, slow down a bit, eat them on the run, and go again. So yeah, absolutely, find out what works for you. I think I know certainly during the last big 10 in 10 we did, so the one we did in 2019, where we had about 70 odd runners, and there were all sorts of things that people were doing as part of their routine. Some people were going home and drinking a bottle of wine, and you know what, if that works for you, then it works for you. So yeah, it's about finding that routine and what works for you.
Well, at GBC, when it was social side of things, everyone was going to the pub and having a drink and enjoying, and then coming back the next day and getting that next marathon done, and then going back to the pub the following evening, making a whole social side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fee, I hate the bread, hard to digest after a few miles, and I hate Marmite. So
each to their own.
Not for you, Fee.
Well, I'm going to plug my YouTube channel. If you aren't subscribed to my channel, Adam Tango Holland. I've just recently added a video on there for Race Across Scotland, which was a 215-mile race I did, and I broke their course record doing it in 60 hours and I think 14 minutes. I've managed to get all that into a 30-minute video, so at some point when you want to jump on and drink your tea and watch me run, you'll see me on there, and at one of my checkpoints I get past a plate that has toast on it. I fold the toast up, walk out and carry on onto my event.
Brilliant. Well, I think we've run out of questions for now. We've been on for just over an hour. Oh, hold on.
Oh.
We've got one more from Will. When you ran the desert, did you run with Kevin Webber, and have you read his book? I didn't run with Kevin. I was there in 2013. I don't know if Kevin was there at the same time. So I didn't run with Kevin, and I haven't read his book. So we've been on for
A good time.
just over an hour. So you've probably had quite enough of us two by now.
I'm going to throw one more thing out there. I want to have a go at the 10 in 10 treadmill world record.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't even know there was one, to be honest. Is there a time on one?
No, yes, for female, not for male. I know her name, but I can't think of it. Female record, there is definitely a 10 in 10 treadmill record, and I want to do the male record. But with COVID, kind of rules changed and stuff, and I was able to do the half marathon treadmill world record at my home, with obviously all the paperwork done, getting my treadmill calibrated, having witnesses stood behind me watching, and obviously doing all the times. But having 10 marathons, I'm hoping it'll be under 3 hours every day. It's just getting the volunteer or two to volunteers
because you need the witnesses all the time. Well, we should we try and get involved. We'll go out to the chat groups and stuff. I'll happily witness for you if I can spare some time to do it. So yeah, we should definitely have a look at that. That'd be cool.
Something I would
yeah,
love to
definitely.
Do. And it's something I know I can do.
Yeah, well, yeah, we know you can do it. Yeah, no, that would be really cool. We should try and have a group effort and put together a team to come and witness it. That would be wicked. Catherine Holland, Adam, can I have your autograph? I know who you are, Catherine.
You can have more than my autograph.
Do you know where your checkbooks are?
I don't have one.
Oh, okay, fair enough. If your wife wants your signature when you're away. So, Brian, yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for listening in, guys. Listening in to us wittering on for well over an hour. So, yeah, thank you for joining us. Hopefully some of that was of some help. And if it was, then, we can maybe do another session at some point. And hopefully, if just one person is inspired to try 10 in 10, then it's been an hour well spent. So thanks very much, everyone, and we will see you soon.
Definitely. Feel free to send me messages on my page if you ever have a question.
Cool.
Bye.
See you later.